would have put the bridge right next to the quarters. Honestly, I'd be happy if the ship only had 2 levels to it. Guess it won't hurt to go ahead and grab this quest over here.
Yo, got a thing. Want to do the thing?
But you hate when a private corporation army goes through your stuff. Or a corporate army goes through your stuff.
Back on Athenas. I was so excited to get out of that monastery that I forgot to pack some really important stuff. You gotta get it back for me.
This looks up the NASA standard. I'm not at all concerned about this. We are gonna 100% this playthrough though. I'm gonna first bust out the main story, then I'm gonna go back and just start cleaning everything up. Hell yeah, dude. I wish Mayhem wasn't bugged on consoles, so you had it unlocked automatically. Hopefully they'll have that fixed by the time we go to do our ults.
Lil's already lost.
Reefer and beer. How the times have changed, man. Meet the new boss, same as the old boss. I love that line. It's a perfect way for that song to end. Wainwright Jacobs. Welcome to the Jacobs Corporation. Family company.
A few survivors are holed up in my family's lodge. Supplies are running low and we're surrounded. I need your help.
Is Destiny gonna beat Borderlands? I seriously have to wonder. I've asked myself that question while I was having dinner. What is gonna happen next? How good is Shadowkeep gonna be? Because it seems like people are already moving away from Borderlands, and Goth looks so happy to be playing Destiny. Maru didn't even play fucking Borderlands today. He played a Goose Game. Like, Untitled Goose Game, I think it's called. I wish there was like an almanac kind of thing to like let you specifically see what car parts you needed to unlock still, or at least like have things silhouetted. Who's that Pokemon style? I'm guessing there's gonna be new vehicles. I really hope, unlike, oh, they do. I'm stupid. They already do have that system. Well, I really hope like they don't do the whole DLC thing that they did in Borderlands 1 and 2. Well, Borderlands 2. Because there wasn't new vehicles in 1. And as they introduce new vehicles that are playable in the main game, usable in the main game, don't truck with Eden 6. Well, what happened? Take out Inquisitor Bloodflap and his gang. Alright.
Oh, those poor SOBs.
Yes,
Hey, Von Hunter, over here.
they don't really make Eden 6 unique. You're just a fucking backwater hillbilly no matter what planet you go to. They could have done something interesting with this planet. They've done so much better with the bandit dialogue, where the bandits kind of have this, like, broken Shakespearean language.
Central to our logging operations, too. At least my father's not allowed to see its fall into those bandit devils.
I'm telling you, Eden 6 looks so much like Jacob's Grove, though. The gravity doesn't change, and there's like, it's still cool and it's neat, but I really do feel like nothing really separates the planets. Except for some aesthetics, and then, you know, that's it. That literally is it. They just look a little different. But they're not that much different than locales you've... Excuse me. You've already seen in Pandora before, you know? They've already shown that Pandora can be pretty damn diverse.
You'll find the lodge at the peak. We'll fight these devils off best we can, but I suggest you hurry.
Oh, come on. That looks totally bustable. Outsider!
Ha! Too slow.
The great bolt beckons! Jacobs will bleed! As long as I can hold a Jacobs shotgun in my hand, I ain't handing over Eden 6 without a fight! Come at me, you mud-sucking bastards!
You just keep going, don't you, Vault Thief? Have you considered, I don't know, laying down and dying? Seemed to work for your siren friend.
Ooh, that was
Haven't
low.
heard any complaints
That was
from
low.
her.
Glad you're here. Not sure how much longer we could have held those COV zealots off.
Hold on, I've got to get $3 or $4. It won't matter in the least. Thank you.
Accept your punishment.
Accept your punishment.
Just
You don't gotta send me mail, Jacobs. I'm right here.
I live for this. Brutal. You'll remember my.
It's a cool introduction to Wainwright. Oh, he's got a bald spot. I didn't notice that the first time. That's fun. Yes, that Jacobs.
Vault Hunter, you just saved my damn
He is
life,
fucking
and I
so
am in
stoned.
your debt.
Which is blah.
My name is Wainwright Jacobs, but I'm afraid my name's all I have left. Those devils have taken everything else. Well, come on in.
Oh, yeah. Fuck,
Help
yeah.
yourself to some firearms. I salvaged what little I could from my father's personal collection.
From my father's personal collection, I do declare. Oh me, oh my, oh me, oh my. Oh my. Oh, that sounds good. Oh. Okay. Let's see what we got going down here at the Jacobs family estate. Why is my Nighthawk not equipped? What fucking blasphemy is this?
Use 'em now. Those twin Calypso devils murdered him and took
Me oh my, freer than a bird because I'm rocking
I
Ohio.
reckon I'd be in the mud too.
This fucking Lenin?
I escaped with my life.
Who
but
puts
they
a Lenin
captured
statue
my
up in the middle of a
Alistair
corporation?
Hammerlock. Those devils are holding him as leverage until I cough up the vault key, which is also why you're here, I presume.
While I do declare, this is like Red Dead Redemption 2
That
style. You
vault
gotta
has
go to
been a
the southern
family secret
plantation
for
to
generations. We didn't want our fair paradise to be torn asunder like what happened to Prometheus.
get pulled asunder.
Where there's a vault, there's always a war. But right now, I have more pressing concerns than my family legacy. Alistair Hammerlock, love of my life. If they kill him, I got nothing left.
I still want the game to explain why the Baroness is part of the Jacobs Family Corporation, and it's the sister of Hammerlock, and yet these two are fucking married.
So that's exactly what we gonna do. See, that cult is holding Alistair in a prison called...
Still made up, okay?
I already sent a team of mercenaries to break him out, but I ain't heard from them since. Rescue Alistair, and I'll get you that damn vault.
Why'd they give him the fucking massive mole on the forehead?
Sure. Never been on the other side
The
of a prison
wrinkles are
break before.
cool.
All right. The team's muscle, codenamed Meat Slab, should be securing an escape route as we speak. He'll be near the prison. It's front gate. Find him and get Alistair out. I'll hold down the fort and protect what's left of my people.
Okay.
Good luck.
Thanks. AKA
I'm not worried about Meat Slab.
420 no scope, get fucked later,
Mountain
loser.
And a man and much angrier. But attention span ain't his strong suit, particularly when there's punches to...
No wonder the COV's here. Look at who you got defending the place. Point out, look in this map, yeah. I wish that they would have given them a cool dialogue, though, and made them more unique than what they are. They talk like Pandoran people. They act like Pandoran people. It effectively is Pandoran people. It's just Jacob's Cove and the Hammerlock area. The horizon looks better. That's what's different and new about it, but still, it's very Jacob's Cove. For good reason, but if you already know that exists on Pandora, I think it needs to be brightened up a little bit. They should have gone for more of that tropical theme.
She manages the books,
Yeah, a lot of empty space, a lot of really dark greens. The daylight really doesn't shine it up. Like, giving it like a moon or two and really making it look fucking like it's a cool horizon. There's no denying that. But it just doesn't look different enough than other environments we've already seen on Pandora. I like the VODs on your dinner screen. Well, thanks for that idea, Freak Show. I appreciate it, man. You were the one who came up with that. 10 suns and 3 moons minimum. Hey, you know, it's more typical to have a binary star system. So, on Tatooine, where Anakin is, I think it is, or Luke. That's more common than our star system. Our star system, in fact, our entire system is unusual. The fact that the terrestrial planets are around the star, rather than the gas giants around the star, then the terrestrial planets, and the single sun. That's neither here nor there. The point is, this still feels like Jacob's Cove, and if they were going to build a jungle, I think they could have done a little better. There's a lot of potential here, but I want to see some brighter greens. I want to see some, like, Son of Carmack style stuff. Crazy tropical environments. That would have really made this map stand out. And then they have Athenas, which does stand out, but you're only there for literally one linear path. Over here. I do like Eden 6. I'm just saying that it doesn't feel like anything you haven't already seen on Pandora. And that's a general thing with this game. They've all got the same gravity, they've all got the same gas. Like Elpis, they really changed stuff up. And I think that it would really make it interesting if that had been what they decided to do. Some planets have bullets travel faster, some planets have less gravity or more gravity, and that really changes the mechanics of how things work to help keep it fresh. But I understand there's a logistical thing there, and then Project Creep and the rest. I still think we have to discuss whether or not Destiny is going to actually beat Borderlands, because Borderlands very much so stuck with its guns with Borderlands 3. You know, it stayed in the wheelhouse, it didn't change up the formula at all. It improved the formula a lot in many ways, and in some ways, something's going on that people are like already kind of done with it in 2 weeks. So even with a positive impression, which is good, but they're not playing like Adam, you know, they're just sort of occasionally logging in. And now it's only 2 weeks later. You got people like Walter, they've already fucking seen it all and done it all.
Trigger finger's getting tired over here. Don't say I didn't warn you.
I mean, see, I come at it from the perspective of, I'm not going to play Destiny. I've already said that, you know, I've already talked in endless detail of why the fuck I'm not going to play Destiny, but if I want to be a Borderlands guy, and I am a Borderlands guy, I think what happens after your game comes out, especially when you know, it's generally everyone fucking seems to love it, and it's got a lot of positive praise, you have to have some people in the room ready to, like, say, here's what sucks about it. Instead of getting a posse around you that just says, it's wonderful, it's beautiful, it doesn't stink ever, everything's perfect about it. Because that's not true. It must have a fairly weak endgame where people wouldn't already be sort of over it in many ways. People who have really played it hard. I mean, you have Gathalion already on. Of course, he looks really happy, is the biggest thing to me. He looks very happy to be back on Destiny, which you can't blame him for. And, you know, Destiny's gotten really good, and he's a big-time Destiny guy, but he looks happy to be back. And Baru was playing an Untitled Goose Game today.
Give me an assist.
As much as I hate it, there's some things that Destiny does well to keep it fresh. Like, one of the biggest things that I think that Borderlands could learn from is just having blues and purples kind of still be interesting and worthwhile to look at. Where currently in Borderlands 3, we are not at that point. They've improved the loot system, they've improved the scaling, but we're back to where, like, they were in Borderlands 2, where you just run legendaries and that's fucking it. And then you kind of get stuck with your build, and then that's just what you do to just kill people. Boss just came in, so I had to take off. Oh, it's all good, Justin. Thanks for coming to say hi. Are you still at work, Justin? Again, I say this as a fan. I say this as a fan wanting the future to be bright, not as a hater. Bro, we're BioWare minimum 7 out of 10. Like, nerfs are a bad idea. Unless something is broken or exploded, you should just be buffing underpowered stuff like Zane. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Generally speaking, I agree. And I mean generally speaking in the sense that Gearbox didn't used to do balance patches like they are right now. And that's kind of exciting. I don't think the way that they're doing it is necessarily perfect. You know, just here's a fucking quarter reduction in Jacob's damage. That kind of thing is just... But it's what you do in game development, I hate to say. They can still change it because of these hot fixes. And it's cool that they can do it through a... You know, that they're doing it quick and they're actually doing it this time. They didn't used to play around with balance at all. It's a mixed thing. That's why I say generally. They didn't play around with balance at all, and what they would do is they would go into whatever was broken and then come up with different gear around how the math worked. So like in Borderlands 1, I love that once you had Crawler Max out, they came up with an Ashen class mod for Brick so that you could build him into a tank. And they came out with an Iridian class mod for Lilith to try to make Iridian guns worth it. And they were. Because the way that they scaled the numbers and the way that they, you know, the way that they designed the class mod, just like, it's like having something that's flavorless and throwing a ton of salt and pepper into it to try to give it some kind of flavor. Like, that's what they did. It was like a 200% increase in Iridian damage so that it would actually be worth a damn. So they really played around with their meta in a way that didn't break what it was already good. They just added more good stuff so that you could change it up and try to hunt for different builds that were still really good and unique. And that's why, I mean, I could have kept streaming Borderlands 1. You know, it kind of became a joke here. Well, so... Like, when are we going to stream Borderlands 1? That's just because that loop was so addicting. There were so many different builds, and... not necessarily great builds, because the class tree in Borderlands 1 was really simple. And there were just some plain old bad perks. But it's the guns and the loot they added post-launch that were just really interesting. And you would go on that hunt to try to, like, make this build. And then you could have, like... What do we have on our Mordecai? Like 80 backpack spaces on top of the bank that was like 70 plus spaces. So you just had tons of space to go around, run Crawl Max as annoying as he was, or just farm loot in general to try to figure out what the hell you wanted to build next. And I think by and large that worked. More gooder stuff. I say this is a frenemy home now. Sweet. So I hope that they go that way with stuff, like understanding what's good, and so trying to make the stuff that's not good, trying to create loot in that idea of making it good. Rocket launchers, the pearlescent rocket launcher. Pearlescents are always like experimental weapons in Borderlands. They're sometimes good, sometimes they're fucking crazy good, most of the time they're bad. The Undertaker rocket launcher in Borderlands 1 is like one of the few rocket launchers that's really worth running. And what they did is they knew that rocket launchers weren't balanced well or scaled well. So they just made a rocket launcher that shoots like 25 different rockets. You know, and they kind of fixed that problem. And they fixed that problem not through crazy nerfs or buffs here and there and a bunch of... Because you end up, from what I've noticed, like Fortnite, for instance, to save the world, the more you fuck with things and tinker with things and like throw this number up and throw that number down, and then you end up like having this long series of... It's like... I was doing the exhaust fan in the bathroom, and I needed exactly an 8-inch piece of like wood, and it just kept coming out where it wasn't quite right. So I would go into the grinder, or I'd go get my sander out, and I would try to like grind it down, and then I would always be just a little bit off, you know, or I would cut too much, and then you have to go and get a whole new fresh piece of wood, and then you end up like rethinking it, and it ends up... And I should have just stayed with an 8-inch piece of wood and kept it simple. Well... I think that's what happens when you start to over-tinker with the numbers. You kind of lose sight of what your original intention was, and you sort of seem to lose sight of... Is that a new car? I think it is. Of just how the game played when it first came out, and what worked and what didn't work, and what... And see, because of the way the patch cycle worked on the 360, where, like, what was it, like 3 patches you could produce? You know, once you went over... Not so shrimple in it. Once you, like, went over, you know, a certain amount of data or whatever from your patches, you had to start making people pay for the patches, and you had to add achievements. And then there was just a default, like, maximum to how much you could actually work on a game. Of course, those no longer exist. It's all become uniform. PlayStation, Xbox, Switch. Doesn't matter. You can update PC, of course. You could update your game endlessly and tinker on it endlessly. Because Borderlands 1 didn't have the benefit, they had to be a lot more conservative in what they chose to do. And so I thought that they did some really, really smart post-game content that showed that they were well aware of how their game played. In Borderlands 2, I thought they were usually 50-50. Sometimes I thought that they did things that made no sense, like nerfing characters in the midst of OP levels where everything was completely out of whack. A lot of stuff was broken. And then they would also introduce new items like the Rough Rider that it's like, oh, that makes perfect sense. That actually is in the vein of Borderlands 1. It's a new, unique, interesting item that if you know what you're doing, you can build into, and you can come up with a completely new way to play because of it. I'm really hoping that's what they lean into. And these, like, negative 25% damage on Jacobs. You know, just like a fairly significant nerf to Gorillas in the Mist. This is stuff that's more in the fucking bad way of Borderlands 2. Just throw numbers at the wall and hope something eventually breaks. And I think you're looking at a game that, because they decided to stick to the guns, in many ways is really old-fashioned. It's old-fashioned in the best ways, but its endgame is appearing to be fairly shallow. So people are going to be playing Destiny, and now people, you know, you fucking live and die on people continuing to play your game.
No gravity.
It's still overall a huge improvement. I mean, it's just crazy refined, but it is the exact same systems that have always existed.
That fat wheel may not be
As your
fast
twice
as
cut
a
three
little
times
old
story of my
take
life,
a
right?
beating before giving
Right.
out.
Well, I think that the same rules in carpentry and construction in general apply to game development in large part. You know, you make an algorithm, you make a blueprint, and you're trying to course correct some things, and you have a philosophy. So the philosophy they're trying to use, I also am not a huge proponent of. The idea that because people are generally using Jacobs, that's bad. What we want is the gun usage to be pretty much even. Well, it's good to have a really diverse meta. I mean, that's great. But just because something is strong doesn't mean, therefore, bad. Must try to make everything equal all the time. I think it's okay. The TDRs should have a purpose that's specific, but generally speaking, just because Jacobs does more damage, therefore, why wouldn't it be better? Why wouldn't it be better to use most of the time? But the way they're looking at it is,
I'm the fake.
oh, there's, you know, like 35% of people are using Jacobs. We would rather it be like 15%. So let's fucking nerf it. Let's fucking nerf Jacobs, and then... Sorry, my audio is still... I just never feel like it's right anymore. I get on these tangents and they're so broken up with bad gameplay and audio adjusting. Yeah, I mean, I don't look up meta or anything, I just use the jabber and it works for me. Which is good. Which is... Borderlands is working better than Borderlands 2 at the end of its life cycle. Well, not the very end, because the Commander Lilith DLC actually helped a lot of stuff, but... For the largest part of it. And in large part, that's because you don't have the exponential scaling, you don't have UVHM, you don't have OP levels, you don't have any of the bullshit that throws things off and makes it so that you can't run interesting builds, and they get rid of build diversity in that way. Because it's not strictly a meta-driven game. I think they just need to give us more insight into why their philosophy is we need to have almost equal weapon usage. Because I don't understand that yet. I think that they're better off doing what they did in Borderlands 1, where it's like, oh, people aren't using rocket launchers. Okay, let's just design a really fucking good rocket launcher. Let's just make it so people want to use rocket launchers by having a great one. Instead of, alright, well, let's nerf everything else so rocket launchers look good in the context of everything else sucking. Which would ruin it. It's a worry. The guy that they have, though, the lead designer, Paul Sage, this time around, he worked on Ultima Online. So it's interesting. He never talks like he's going to be there all that long. He talks like he's going to be there, you know, for the next year or so or whatever to get this year of content out. And they never talk beyond that, of course. They don't talk like there's going to be that much content anyway. That, you know, there's going to be a year and there's going to be a lot of events and stuff going on. But they've definitely never said it's going to be forever. It's going to eventually work towards another sequel. So they just keep giving mixed signals. Like, why do you hire an MMORPG guy if you're not planning on doing the MMORPG kind of thing, which is the live service model? Doing years and years of patches and really continuing to, you know, bang on it and add to it, work on it, tinker with it.
Moving to safety.
It seems like you would hire a more traditional action RPG guy, which he did a good job. I mean, he obviously has a lot of experience, and this game has had a really nice launch. It's just the future that we get a lot of mixed signals on. Especially no UVHM, no new Vault Hunters. You know, that tells you that this isn't supposed to be forever. That's for sure. It's the same thing with Zos. Magic Pet Source. Oh, holy shit. Another handsome jackhammer. That's a pretty good roll, though. What did you say, but it's the same thing with Zos. Magic Pet Source were fairly uncommon a year or so ago. Now they're god tier. This is in Elder Scrolls Online. I wonder if they're gonna do... Okay, a lot of games have done this and been ESO. Okay. How do they do their patch cycles? Pretty successful. A lot of games have been pretty successful with the idea of, like, a season, like Diablo does, like Destiny did for a long time. And the idea was, like, at one time in Destiny, pulse rifles were fucking king. And then it was fusion rifles, and then it was shotguns for a while, and then it was at the beginning, it was machine guns. Then finally, it was, like, I don't know, I quit playing that game after taking King, but I know that was, like, the philosophy, was that instead of trying to balance things, they would just throw one, like, item type out of whack for a while and let that be OP, and then they would eventually nerf it down really fucking hard, but they would buff something else to compensate, and then it was up to you to kind of figure out where the meta was at that point. I guess Diablo does that a lot from the way you guys talk. Diablo's like, yeah, there's this, what they do is, in order to rework balance, is they just make a couple classes really, really fucking strong, and then what they do is they'll go through and, you know, just throw that fucking class into the ground on the next season. I don't like that, though. I thought it worked better in Destiny with the multiplayer, but I don't like the idea that, like, say you play Flak constantly, or you play Amari constantly. Well, once your season ends to where Flak is, you know, he's pretty much the meta of Borderlands right now. Still. Once your meta ends, your character is ass.
Learn to dodge.
Something about the way that they balanced things in Borderlands 1 I really liked. They worked with what they had and they made it work, and it made them creative, and nothing got broken along the way. The Caustic Hellfire stayed powerful, the Double Anarchy stayed powerful, the Master stayed powerful. They just kept adding more powerful guns to the mix and more interesting class mods and shields to try to, like, mix it up. And Borderlands 2 did that sometimes to a really good effect. Like the Rough Rider shield, like a lot of the uniques. That was something Borderlands 2 did really well. Was a lot of the quest uniques, just like Elder Scrolls or classic action RPG, any classic role-playing game. You know, you go and you do the fucking go save Timmy out of the well and find the magic ring, and that ends the curse on the witch, and it turns out the witch was a princess, and everybody lives happily ever after, and you get the Staff of All-Knowing. That ends up being one of the most powerful items because it operates like it'll, you know, it'll have like foresight, so you know if someone is an assassin ahead of time, and that'll allow you to build some unique build around it. That's why Borderlands 2 I thought also had better storytelling. Right now, I'm not final on any opinions, but the idea that it told a story and then you'd get some really cool unique out of it, and then that unique ended up being in large part a part of the meta. That any of the Moxie weapons, even the Hail, the Sandhawk, of course, they just would have like super interesting mechanics to them, and then you would build around it. The Pimpernel, the Ruby. Hey,
The vaults operate as
the uniques kind of suck in this one.
The Guardians have no need to serve
You don't.
as
They're not
jailers,
tying into builds.
only as sentinels at the walls. Why then bring them so close
So
to
that's
consciousness?
Pulse Rifle meta was fun. I love the Red Death. Yeah, it was really fun. And luckily they didn't nerf him into the ground when they finally decided to write that at him. You know, they stayed okay. There was still some hard-hitting pulse rifles out there. Those were really fun. And that was something that Destiny got right, man. It was weird, but it really did get that right. Like, doing the gunsmith quests every Monday and trying to figure out what weapon could potentially be OP in multiplayer, and the idea that blues and greens, even whites sometimes, like the first assault rifle you got ended up being a really, really nice rifle if you played it with in the PvP. That was the chase of Destiny. It was never static. You never knew what combination of guns was gonna break things. Remember running strikes over and over and over again to get the Pilgrim? It was Pilgrim something or another. It was like the 4-burst assault rifle, or running the Wizard Moon strike over and over again to get what was basically a fast-firing version of that thing. You know, that shit worked because it was the hunt that we're talking about that Borderlands originated. And I think that right now, Borderlands 3 doesn't have it. There's a lot of builds out there that are strong, especially Flak. You know, you just throw a few things together, you fucking break him. And there's not like a masher out there. There's not a double anarchy out there. The parts of it that are working are anointed and trying to find a really great rule on your legendaries. But they really lessened the legendary loot pool rules. There's like 3 or 4 different rules for the legendaries. That's not counting anointed. I mean, you could put anointed on there, but it's like there's a bad, a medium, a fucking good, and then a best tier rule, and then that's about it. The parts don't really vary much, and then you just try to get it anointed. So it's weird. Borderlands 2 was really fucking stingy with drops, especially considering how much you needed to farm in that game. But it was okay, and if you could put the drop rates of Borderlands 3 into Borderlands 2, I think you'd be hitting on something. Because there was a lot more, oh, that's a shitty one. Oh, that's a shitty one. Or that's a unique one. We're still early, though. We're still really early. As a fan, just speaking on whether or not this game becomes Division 2. Division 2 is...
I was made for this!
You know, it's a fucking murky game. I'm trying to find the right word for it. It's kind of undead. It's not dead, but it's not really fucking alive either. It's active. People play it. Some people are dedicated to it, but it doesn't bring the kind of attention that it used to for some reason. I don't want Borderlands to become that, because I was thinking to myself while I ate dinner, I was like, yeah, the Hopscotch Pilgrim, that's right. I did the same strike 150 times. You see that? That kind of thing is something like Destiny that Borderlands has got to look at. They have the Proving Grounds, which is basically strikes. And they're probably better than strikes. I don't know. I haven't actually ran them yet. But they're worse than strikes in the sense that nobody's fucking doing them because they've already got the loot they want. They just want to farm for good reason. Just farm bosses, get the legendaries you need, turn it offline, go farm the damn loot tank. You know, and 100, which is fun, by the way. That's the problem with getting rid of that shit, is it's fun. What we need is set activities that have certain drops to them. Like the Hopscotch Pilgrim was only in the strike playlist. Ooh. So having certain legendaries, take them out of the world pool, because there's way too many drops in the world pool right now. I don't know that they're going to change any of this shit. This was a problem with Battleborn. Remember Battleborn had most of its legendaries locked away behind fucking loot boxes? Not paid loot boxes, to be fair. But literally you could only get a lot of the legendaries in Battleborn through opening boxes. So you need to make it so, like, yeah, there's these really good legendaries, or there's this gear set that would be perfect, or there's this really unique, interesting class mod for all the characters, and it's only in Proving Grounds. And then you do that loot pool for each Proving Ground. You know, the Pandoran Proving Ground, the fucking Eden 6 Proving Ground is... They've got their own sets attached to them. The Eden 6 set and the Pandoran set. And you can only get it through Proving Grounds. And that's going to motivate people to go through Proving Grounds. You upgrade the inventory size so that people want to collect it, even if they don't need it. But you also make it so that it's viable. You could build around it if you needed to or wanted to. Treat that hunt. There needs to be some really fucking interesting... I think that they already need to go ahead and start experimenting with different gear tiers. Because fucking blues and purples are nothing in this one. They're just trash. And not only that, they become trash really quickly. You don't even pick up and sell. You just let it lay around. So you're playing a looter shooter and you just don't loot anymore. You've already got your stuff. Blues and purples are just useless to you. So you don't look at them. So it's probably already time, even though it seems early, to talk about adding Seraph weapons, talking about adding Evanescent weapons, talking about adding pearls back in. That's going to be step one. And pearls should drop from the Slaughter Dome. Give people a reason to do that really long, you know, grinding activity. Yeah, they're great for leveling up, right? But then they're just done. And I don't think you necessarily want that. I think that level 50, you still want to be looking at the occasional blue, like you would in Borderlands 1. Because you're thinking, okay, this could be interesting. And Destiny had that too, to be fair to Destiny. You can only run, you know, you can only run the one exotic, and then you have to build around that exotic. And so you're forced to choose what you're going to load out besides your exotic. And sometimes that can be a blue. Of course, most often it's a purple. But you could run blues through raids. And of course in PvP, with the way that it was normalized, you would look at that stuff. So much about Borderlands 3 is better than its predecessors. But its endgame right now, even though they talked it up pretty good, is really weak at the moment. And I hate to say that. But it's just the way people are going about it. From what I'm seeing is they're already kind of getting farmed up, or they farmed up all the shit that was pretty easy. There was a set method to do it. They got their stuff. I credit the game for being very generous to its players and allowing the player to take the game at their own pace and at their own free will and to be able to play it offline and all these things. I'm always going to give. That's why I don't play Destiny. But there's some things that Destiny does in a design way that I think do work. So you add, you know, set proving ground loot. Hold on. We can talk about this in a video. Brick can handle himself. Either way, as of right now, the first thing they've got to do is just add more inventory room. That's step one. It should be the easiest thing for them to do. It's just focus on that. First and foremost, get more inventory space, both in backpack and the vault. As much as you can possibly get in there. That's step one. Once you get past step one, then we got to start talking about adding specific rewards for specific activities. Have the Eden 6 Proving Ground set. Have the Eden 6 Proving Ground class mod. You know, copy and paste that for every area, every Proving Ground. Bring back the Pearl Essence or the Effervescence and put them into the Slaughter Dome. Make them a Slaughter Dome only reward. Take pretty much everything out of the open world pool and put it into you have to do a certain activity. One Pump Chump is an example. One Pump Chump's a fun farm. You have to go through a little area, you have to battle through the sewer, you have to do a really simple puzzle, and then you go after your loot. But that mechanically keeps it more interesting than, say, your flak. Oh, fucking go into Gorillas in the Mist, shoot him in the face 2 times, he's dead. It's good to be powerful in Borderlands, that's half the idea, but people farm their shit up in a week. It was just too easy.
Ferocity's my middle name.
And so I don't think that, what I'm saying is I don't think the answer is you nerf Grave, you nerf Flak and make it so that he can't do the whole Gorillas in the Mist thing anymore. That's not the answer. The answer is you let him do Gorillas in the Mist, but you have to do different activities. You got to do a much harder. This week, yeah, it's kind of unique though the way they're doing it. I'll show you, Justin. There's a list. So don't make it so that if I want to get every fucking thing in the game, like you said, Adam, you swear he drops everything. This is the Borderlands my whole build. It's all legendary, right? And you're only 2 weeks in, and you're down to like 2 hours every now and again, just for the hell of it, just because you love the game. I don't think that's where the developers want to be right now. It's not that the game is bad, it's that people have already fucking finished it. And we still have, only 2 weeks in, we're supposed to have at least a year of content. But it's specific enemies drop specifically a piece of loot more often, Justin, right now. I'll pull the list up. 2 that we want to look at is Pain and Tear and Katagawa are dropping legendary class mods more, so they're probably worth the farm. It's not about making Flak weak. It's not about making farming more of a pain in the ass. Farming Grave Ward with Flak is still a good thing. It's about making it so that if Flak wants to get this really cool class mod that you can, like an Iridian Warrior on Lilith, or the tank mod on Break, that he's got to go out and he's got to farm an activity that's a little harder to do, takes a little while longer, isn't guaranteed to get it, has some bragging rights attached to it, just to keep people busy, just to keep people on the hunt. Don't put arbitrary busy work in there. Make it rewarding, make it fun. But there's got to be a hunt, and it's got to be a worthwhile hunt. I think they'll get there. The thing that makes me the happiest about the future is if they go down a good design path, is the fucking... The gunplay is so good now. You know, it just plays so well, and the shooting is actually tight. The past Borderlands were always pretty good, they were always really fun, but they relied pretty heavy on aim assist, and they were more aesthetically driven. ADS was more like, you know, a cartoon cutout. You kind of pretended you were ADSing. Especially Borderlands 2, to be honest. This is a fucking proper shooter. It's a damn good shooter. The movement's smooth, the mantling is actually really good, the sliding is fast, and it doesn't screw you, and the character movement speed in general is fast. So they could make some really, really amazing content. They could make some really challenging content that carries some great rewards. And that's going to add that flow, man. That's going to be that challenge and skill thing.
Just for the crack.
So again, Justin, I hear what you're saying. It's not overall. Here, I'll pull it up. It's like, it's kind of neat how they're doing it, actually. Yeah, specific bosses, and then they got the specific, like, they'll just drop the Nagata or the Rectifier. And I've never seen this earworm before. Bitch. Is Justin about to say, hey, good luck with the future? Peace. It looks like Pain and Tear and Katagawa are probably fucking worth. Anyway, good luck with the future. Peace. Hey man, we got a program. We got a stream to keep. I'm just trying to do my broadcasting due diligence and talk. I'm working on a video on this though, and like I said, none of my opinions are sad. I've got like 2,000 words on the end game already. But I don't want to actually say like fucking 100% this is what it looks like to me until I've at the very least 100% done TVHM with Zane. Then I'll probably make that video. Let's give this some volume. But if people want a quest, I can get Gunner in here, I can get Justin here, and get Wilso, Adam, whomever. I think it's open. You guys can just join. You can't just like save and quit right outside of it. Oh hey, Brick. Fucking get me, dude. Brick, go ahead and get me, dog. Focus. Focus, big guy. Focus. Fucking Marcus Phoenix. It's funny, the boss we were bitching about yesterday is going to be the boss that we're now going to be expected to farm here. Brick. 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 And now, you can be revived by the AI. Fucking technology. But I don't think you can travel right to the boss. Okay, but once you're outside of the boss, does it have a room? Hopefully it does. If it does, then I think Pain and Tear is definitely going to be the one that's worth the farm. So what we're going to do, some of the stuff I've talked about, you know, like blues and purples, you don't look at them anymore. Once we've finished our content, which is all characters to 50, and our playthroughs are nicely secured and everything looks good. My next playthrough is going to be, I'm going to use only greens. Maybe only blues. I haven't, you know, decided yet just how fucking frosty I'm feeling, but